Raise your hand if you have a toxic person in your life, or you know of somebody who is toxic. You know the people who I'm talking about. They are either those people who are blissfully unaware of the negative impact that they bring to people around them, or they may be that person who derives great satisfaction from causing chaos and pushing our buttons. Either way, these people, toxic people, bring unnecessary stress into our lives. And studies continue to show us that stress can have a long-lasting and negative effect on our brain. Stress is also a formidable threat to our success when it gets out of control. We have enough stress in our lives today. The last thing we need to do is bring on the stress of that toxic person. At Talent Smart, and I have mentioned this in previous EQ how-to tips, we have seen in our research that 90% of top performers are skilled at managing their emotions when it comes to stress so that they can stay calm and in control. Hey everybody, I'm David Brzezowski from Talent Smart EQ, and I have for you this week 5 EQ how-to tips for handling the toxic people in our lives. And these tips come directly from those who do it the best. My first tip is to set limits and establish boundaries. Here's the thing about toxic people. They don't actually focus on solutions. They love to wallow in their problems, and they would love nothing more than for us to join the pity party. So we have to find the fine line between lending a sympathetic ear and getting sucked into that whole negative emotional spiral that they have. We can set those limits with them just by merely setting the boundaries ourselves. So let's talk about boundaries. We need to know who those toxic people are so that we set a boundary as to when I talk to them, how long I talk to them, how I talk to them. They might be on a project with you. It doesn't mean you have to take on their stress. Be strategic with toxic people and set limits and set boundaries. Tip number 2 is to rise above. So what I mean by this is that typically toxic people drive us crazy because their behaviors are so irrational. And the more off base that a toxic person gets, I would like to think that it should be a little easier for us to remove ourselves from them emotionally. My interaction can be really based on facts rather than the emotional chaos that they are bringing into our lives. Stick to facts, stay away from the emotions. Tip number 3 is to stay aware of our emotions. So here's the thing. It is easier to maintain an emotional distance when I know what is pushing my buttons. So I need to have a little bit of a better self-awareness, meaning what is it that this toxic person does or says that is pushing my buttons? When I am more aware of that, then I'm more able to smile and nod and remove myself. If I decide I need to address what that toxic person has said, better to wait, get your thoughts together, and then address it. In the meantime, smile, nod, and move on. Tip number 4 is to squash our negative self-talk. Sometimes we absorb the negativity of a toxic person, but our self-talk, so that's that little voice that's in our head, is the thing that can actually save us from that. So we need to pay attention to what we're saying when this toxic person is in front of us or in a conversation with us, and make sure that that self-talk is positive, it is realistic, and it sounds like me. When I get a self-talk that allows me to potentially walk away or ignore what they are saying, it can be very helpful rather than being a hindrance. And my 5th tip for handling toxic people in our lives is to use your support system. You know, sometimes toxic people take over our thoughts and we're not thinking rationally about how to deal with them. So a really good rule of thumb is to talk to somebody who maybe doesn't know the situation or doesn't have any skin in the game and say, here's the situation. How would you handle it? Listen to some of that advice and see what you might heed from them so that you can go back to handle the toxic person a little bit more effectively. Those are my 5 EQ how-to tips for handling the toxic people in our lives. And I don't want to forget about mentioning that we have one more in-person live Train the Trainer this year of 2021, and it will be at the beginning of December. We will be in San Francisco. So if you've been looking to get certified in one of our Mastering Emotional Intelligence courses, either level 1 or level 2, go to our website, talentsmart.com, and go to the events section. You will find all the information for the location and everything that you need to know in San Francisco. In the meantime, thanks for joining me. Hope to see you in San Francisco or back here for another round of EQ How To.